Tick tock, said the clock before I deleted it. Oh, hello, the unknown one here, and welcome to LBP Horror 101. In each of these videos, I will be giving you advice on how to create horror levels on LittleBigPlanet 2, if it's something that you've never done before, struggle with, or desire the useful knowledge for. I'll take it step by step from the intro to the ending and everything in between, so you'll be able to create the perfect horror level with no stress or struggles. As an opening statement, I'd just like to say that these guidelines are only for help and advice purposes. My methods may not be the best in the world, but they will help many people. Horror is obviously not the same for everyone. What you find scary isn't always going to be the same as what I find scary. Some people can blow through a level filled with killer clowns, while someone like me needs a friend to play with just to get to the front gate of the haunted carnival. The player's reaction to your level is not something you can control. If they bomb your level with, "Oh, this sucks, not scary, boring," then just ignore them. Don't let them discourage or upset you. You can easily turn off comments and reviews to prevent negative feedback and spoilers that you feel are affecting your chances of getting plays. I could say I deal with hate and trolls on a regular basis, but I don't. I ignore them, even if it's the same guy every day telling me to get off LittleBigPlanet. I don't give him the attention he craves, and eventually he stops. Don't tell him he makes you laugh or you feel sorry for him. Just block and ignore him. Listen to those that offer advice like, "Hey, it's a little too dark and hard to see. Can you add more lights?" Or, "The camera angles were off. I could see the killer through every door. You should zoom in a little more." Okay, let me fix that. Tweak, test, republish, and bam, it's that simple. Now, as far as horror levels on LittleBigPlanet go, there are 4 major bases to cover at the start of entering Create mode. These are gameplay types, sub-horror genres, horror elements, and horror techniques. And for all those A+ English students out there, horror elements and horror techniques are very similar to literary elements and literary techniques. But I'm not an English teacher, and this is an English class. This is LBP Horror 101. The big 4 is what I always go by to build a proper horror level, sort of like the 4 legs to a table where your horror level sits on top. So let's go over each base by starting with gameplay type. Gameplay types specific to horror levels on LittleBigPlanet include standard horror, Super Jack 55 and his Eyeless or Outlast series, top-down horror, Akihiko 3359 and his Aoani horror series, RPG horror, Crimson Fang 9. Enough said. Point-and-click horror, Kisama 777's download horror and Mischievous Child, hide-and-seek horror, Hug of War's Murder in the Dark, first-person horror, Akirion's Slender House, and scary rooms would be one as well, I suppose. To an extent, that is. You could add elements such as shooter and survival challenge, but those feel a little more action than horror. They still can be really fun, especially the Evil Dead level by Mars Park. Just remember, your levels will instantly be half the horror it was as soon as you give someone a gun, a sword, or a chainsaw to defend themselves with. Horror subgenres. Horror can be classified into many different types and classifications, so here would be some examples of the different types you would typically see on LittleBigPlanet horror levels. Slasher, most commonly a psycho killer with a cutting tool or melee weapon, hence the name Slasher. Jeff the Killer is a prime example for all you creepypasta lovers out there. Sci-fi horror includes aliens, killer robots, failed experiments, mutants, deadly diseases, anything involving technically futuristicness. Something scaly or slimy that crawls out of the test tubes from the restricted area of the secret lab. Psychological horror. Haha. My PSN name is the root meaning of psychological horror. The unknown, the monster you cannot see, manipulating imagination with dark and unsettling mind games. This type of horror can scar you, leaving a message in your head to think about when you're done playing. Japanese horror is generally of this nature, and you will most likely have to play it over and over again to fully understand the many themes this great horror subgenre likes to slip into your subconscious. Supernatural/paranormal horror. Ghosts, demons, evil spirits, possessions, black magic, etc., usually driven by evil forces and cursed objects or haunted places, creepy and paranormal events that defy logic and reason. Now, you might have some people that'll just rage at you and say there's a difference between supernatural and paranormal, but nobody gives a shit, okay? There's a fucking ghost in my house watching me sleep at night. He says it's supernatural, she says it's paranormal. All I know is I'm getting the hell out of there, okay? There's a lot of sub-horror genres to choose from. Most of them can be broken down into more specific categories like zombie apocalypse or found footage tapes, but in my book, they all generally fall under slasher, sci-fi, psychological, or supernatural. Even those 4 can be merged into each other at times. Now, horror elements and horror techniques are both two whole different sets of colored pencils and crayons. Sounds a little similar but totally different aspects, so I'll need a whole nother video to explain the two bases without it having to feel overwhelming for you and for myself. Now before I end this one, I'd like to go over inspiration for horror levels. Inspiration can literally be found anywhere and everywhere you look. On the internet. If you don't know what creepypasta is, what are you doing here? And YouTube has masses of gamers recording themselves playing the most terrifying horror levels as well. In the books, most books by Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, or Stephen King are pure horror gold. Goosebumps books by R.L. Stine may not be all that scary, but they always deal with scary situations. I still read like 2 of them every October. As far as movies go, well, I hear a lot about how the old horror movies were so much better than today's, but that was back then. All of them are obsolete now, and I myself find it hard to sit through the stale acting and lack of special effects. They are amazing on paper, but don't watch them. You'll either laugh or fall asleep. The standard horror movies of today that I recently enjoyed were Evil Dead, The Conjuring, and Oculus. They all had originality, but a lot of today's horror movies are uncreative, cliche, and you'll most likely forget the whole point of the damn movie the next day. Now, Netflix might have something good every once in a while, but as far as horror movie goes, I'd say look up After Dark Originals and 8 Films to Die For. Trust me, it's good stuff. Back to LittleBigPlanet. For a good horror level, you really need to do some research and brainstorming. You should have played plenty of horror levels by now, but what exactly was the plot and theme of your favorite levels? What did you enjoy most about them, and why? This has been LBP Horror 101 with the Unknown One saying, class is dismissed.